I gotta go to a book signing right now. We live, P.
Yo. So what's good, man? Let's start off with the viral.
Slide over this way a little
This
bit.
way.
Yeah. Other way. There you go.
We get a chance to finally
I'm
do.
sending it to you.
Man, really, man, I'm gonna take a point away, man. Like you really gonna be doing it during. We had all these issues starting out. You gonna start off on
my
your
daughter. This is my daughter.
Okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
Now, who are you? Did you take my daughter? Nah, go ahead.
All right, so let's talk with one of the viral topics, man. Let's talk about what happened at City Hall, man.
Yeah.
What happened?
So, I mean, it's what's happened before. You know, they've been making decisions. I can't even say they're making the decisions. They have been voting to approve things recommended by the city manager that are not really for the entire community. We saw it with Fuses. We see it with the arcade project. We see it with everything that's happened downtown, really. You know, they're not paying into the city the way they should be. So it just becomes disappointing to see it happen so blatantly, you know, when people are there to give public comment. The decision was made. You know, we saw that nothing happened there was going to change their mind. But, you know, to call a 5-minute recess that lasts 45 minutes,
sure.
You know, and just play clownish games right in our faces, you know, like that's what we're dealing with our city government. And it's okay because they get away with it.
So, I mean, is it really the city's job to fix everything, or you think maybe the people also should have a...
Community is about everybody playing their part. And so why have a government if it doesn't do anything? What is it there for?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yes, the city has a role, but we have our role too. You know, we are the business owners. The city is not a business owner, you know, or, I mean, it can be, but it ain't. You know, that's our job to do, but they are there to support. And they are there to really prop up and provide ladders for people that have been disadvantaged for a very long time. We were talking about that specific program, the Minority Business Assistance Center. That's specifically for businesses that have not, you know, been helped by the Chamber of Commerce. You know what I mean? And now that's who we're handing the program to, you know, so it just doesn't square with the reality to say, you know, well, it's going to stay the same. You know, we're passing it off. 2 + 2 doesn't equal 5. And we've seen it before. And for 45 years, this has been the formula. And if things are going to stay the same, you know, to the point you made yesterday, why does it need to change?
Why do you think that the vote was so divided? How come it wasn't more, you know, one-sided? Why was it 3-2 in your opinion?
Once again, like a lot of these votes have been 3-2 because I think two of our commissioners, Commissioner Fairchild, Commissioner Turner Sloss, do a lot of work listening to the community and responding to the community's wants and needs. And we see the city manager, of course, is recommending a lot of things that are laying the groundwork for a very different Dayton than we grew up in, and a very different Dayton than we need to see in the future. And I mean, you know, to lay it plain, gentrification, you know, and it's not that, you know, Dayton has lost 1/3 of its population. So we certainly need to move people back into Dayton and grow our tax base and, you know, bring high paying jobs. We need all of that. But it can't be at the cost of neglecting neighborhoods that have already been left behind for 20 years or more. Like, you know, I'm 34 years old. My neighborhood looks worse than it did when I was a kid. And you can't tell me that means we need to be reelecting somebody that's running for their 24th year in office. Mm-hmm. That's just not where we are.
So for 45 years, what entity has had control over the...
It was the Human Rights Council.
Who?
Or the Human Relations Council, sorry.
Human Relations Council?
Mm-hmm.
And do they have numbers on how much money they've actually dispersed over this 45-year period?
I'm sure they do. I don't have it at my disposal, but I'm sure you could talk to Erica Fields, who's the executive director. I'm sure you can call anybody up at the office and, you know, get that data. But, you know...
Hold on, wait a minute. I got a larger point.
Okay, sorry.
So, like, do you know anybody that's gotten that money?
Joe Love, who, you know...
Okay, anybody else?
Well, I mean, Mr. Tuck was there talking about he had been a beneficiary of that program for 41 of its 45 years.
So they give the same person money over and over and over?
I don't know that that's the way it works. It's certifications. So like if you need to certify your business as minority based, you can do it through that entity. So it's not just giving out money. It's yeah.
So on the AAA certification, once you get your affirmative action assurance, you are now able to bid on government contracts. Mm-hmm. So like the funding portion is a different, separate portion of what a lot of people have benefited from. So if you have your AAA certification, you can now bid on government contracts such as, for road paving, hauling, certain things, certain projects that are centralized around Dayton. You'll be able to do that as a minority business. And the other funding portion is something different, but go ahead.
Right.
What does the company that you guys are fighting to keep in power, what do they do specifically that you want them to keep doing?
So on the HRC side of things, right? Like
what is HRC?
Yeah, the Human Relations Council. They don't only handle business, right? Like they also handle injustice towards minorities. It's not just a business, such as like they're handing it off to someone who only specializes in business. So I can see why the school of thought would be, okay, these people primarily handle business. Y'all continue to handle the Human Relations Council portion of things, but no longer in the business sector is what I'm.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the problem was this formula was set up this way because minority businesses and disadvantaged businesses were not getting the same benefits from places like the Chamber of Commerce, which is why this was a need, right? Mm-hmm. And I just don't think, we have made progress, but we're not at a place where we need to hand that back to the Chamber of Commerce and let them take over combating racism in business, and racism in housing. Like that's not their mission. Mm-hmm. And they can say it is, but they have hundreds of years of history to tell us otherwise. And so, to me, it is passing the buck when the charge here was to specifically support these businesses with this government entity, the Human Relations Council. And I think the larger point here is that this is part of a larger agenda. This is not the first attack we've seen on the Human Relations Council. They've stripped other, I can't, call it off the top of my head, but they've stripped other programs from the HRC already. Mm-hmm. And so this is just, another piece of that puzzle that I'm saying is like laying the groundwork for supporting other types of businesses in Dayton that are not minority based.
Is the HRC elected officials or is this a private sector business?
No, it's a government agency. It's through the city. Mm-hmm. So, but their specific charge is, combating racism in city policy. And
so this is HRC is a city program
mm-hmm.
or a city entity. And then what about the Chamber of Commerce? What is that? Is that
that is private? No, that is certainly private.
That's a private.
I mean, in many cases, the Chamber of Commerce donates to Republicans, supports the Republican Party largely,
mm-hmm.
and to a great amount of money.
So
so that's what we're dealing with.
The Chamber of Commerce it's owned by a private citizen?
No, I mean it's like it's an organization. I don't know
it's
that
an
it would be considered a nonprofit. Maybe.
Okay, so the Chamber of Commerce has nothing to do with the city government or government.
No, they work in partnership. I mean, it is not the city government, no, but they work in partnership a lot. Yes.
So
the Chamber of Commerce is a partner with Minority Business Assistance Center. They do work with the government on that specific program, but in terms of handing them the entire program to administer, I think we're stepping into dangerous territory because that is going directly against what the purpose of the HRC is for and what the purpose.
I guess my point is just trying to figure out like who's in charge of this agency that they've handed it off to.
Oh, I don't know who's at the head of the Chamber of Commerce right now.
There's no way for people to become a part of the Chamber of Commerce in order to make sure that these things don't, turn into some racist thing against black people.
That's like saying, we need more black cops to fix policing. You know what I'm saying? Like just adding our face to. No, I don't think that's the solution to policing is creating a real relationship with the community, and the policies that police use don't allow for that. The way they train police, the way they respond to certain community incidents, doesn't allow for, just our faces to change policing. They a lot of times become police officers that do the same thing white cops do. Mm-hmm. We saw that, just a little while ago. Mm-hmm. All those officers arrested were black. You know what I'm saying?
So do you think that it would be a bad thing for black people to become?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that doesn't fix policing. Sure, let's have black cops, but that doesn't fix the problem and the culture of police brutality and over policing, and that's a much larger systematic and systemic dynamic.
I think if you get somebody from a community and they are out there servicing that community, I think that their mentality might look at the people in that community with a little more understanding of what's actually going on.
I mean,
And
we
then-
have data. I mean,
I'm just saying.
a lot of
well,
police
we do
chiefs in this country
we do
are
got
black.
Data. We do got data, and I know that they did want to exploit that Memphis situation where now you got 4 black police officers jumping on.
well, it's not just Memphis. Like I said, a lot of police chiefs across this country are black.
Right. That is true. But I'm talking
In
about
cities with black mayors.
True. That's true, but we don't see attacks happening to black people by other black police officers like these major stories that we're always seeing a white police officer attack. And so what I'm saying is, yes, we got black police officers and we got black mayors and black police chiefs, but I still think that when a people is policed by people who are coming out of that community, you stand a better chance with just compassion and understanding as to how things look. Just like for example, if I see somebody with a nice car, all right, I don't automatically think drug dealer. But somebody that's only been raised on black culture was seeing like movies of black people that's got nice cars as getting it from the street some kind of way. And that's their just mentality and way of thinking. They police them different. You see what I'm saying? So I think that police officers coming out of the community would definitely help. I would encourage more brothers and sisters to become police officers to try to
I
change
would
it
too.
from within.
So I agree with you because I agree with both of you guys, but like the difference in what we're saying is literally you're saying out the community, you're saying black, right? Because to me, I know white people that grew up around me that was more hood than me, right? Which would kind of look at things with like a different, broader perspective than I would sometimes. So I'm not saying that specifically need to be black police officers, but they should be policed by people that live in that neighborhood because to me, I feel like you're going to look at it with the lens of, okay, this isn't some guy that's out here being belligerent. That's Peanut. He loud all the time, right?
Right.
And I feel like we split the hairs there.
And that is certainly a contingency of policing, but there is a part of policing that is kind of like, the blue code. There are certain things that you are allowed to get away with when you respond in an improper manner. There's no accountability. And so you become part of a system where you can't hold bad cops accountable. So it doesn't matter how great a police officer you are. This can, and in many cases does still happen. And there's no recourse for that. And so there's still a problem with policing. In general, not with our officers who are responsive, who are in the community, from the community. You don't have to be from the community to respond well to a community. I don't even think that's the case. It's more likely, sure. But you can be a good officer without being from that community. There are bad cops, though, and we need a pathway of accountability for them because many times it sucks in the good officers. How many videos have we watched where the good cops are just standing there? Well, and then we're questioning how good they are because they're not the one, choking somebody out.
I want to play devil's advocate, right? So for the 24-hour day, like right now, nobody's getting beat up by the police right now. No one's getting killed by the police right now. Well, maybe.
I'm about to say they just shot. Our cops just shot somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but like for a 24-hour period, right? We have a bunch of cops out there right now who are actively policing, sitting there right now, not messing with anybody. Doesn't it kind of sitting around message saying cops? Because it's kind of like it's to me it's a reverse mirror that I don't want to be mirrored by us saying, okay, all black people are, all cops are. Doesn't that send the wrong message?
No, that's why I talk about policing. I try to keep the conversation away from specific people, even in the context of this election. You are friends with Mayor Mims. This is not personal. Sure. Great guy. So this is I really try to steer the conversation away from centering it on the individual. We are talking about systems here. At least I try to. And that's the perspective that I think needs the most change. The systematic change is what we need. And I don't think individuals change that completely. Sure, they change it in really critical ways, and in ways that we see that are visible, that protect us from over authority, over policing. But it's not the whole solution. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so outside of police.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I'm tired of talking about policing because we have a fire station closed in this community, and there are homes burning down. There was one that burnt down at the end of my street. Woke up smelling smoke in the house. Like, that's how close it was. And so, public safety for Dayton needs to be a much larger conversation. So I'm tired of talking about the cops anyway. It's the city that brings it up because they always want to give them money and expand their power. So, they bring the conversation up over and over. But let's talk about these firefighters that are underpaid, leaving for departments that are in, the counties and the suburbs around us. And we have an entire fire station closed.
Who pays the fire
The city.
fighters? Huh?
The city.
And where does the city get the money from?
Taxes.
Taxes. So how would we be able to pay firefighters more?
We are giving away millions of dollars for downtown development.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a candy store.
No,
And our cops are walking away. I mean, cops and firefighters walking away.
So take money from some of this candy land and then kind of
and pay the
use
people
it
that
to
keep us
pay
safe.
Firefighters, not by increasing taxes.
So
No, I mean, and that's a different conversation. But we don't have to. We don't have to increase taxes to pay city workers more. No.
So like when I went down to City Hall and I gave my speech, right, I had some pushback from one person that actually works for the city somehow, right? In some capacity, she helps out on the federal grants, and we had a bunch of pushback because there were certain things that maybe I'm not abreast to because, like I said before, I don't know all of how the money works out, but the way she explained to me, it was that the portal pot of money that I made fun of isn't the same pot of money for this. So they have different separate buckets from different separate grants that go into different sections that where they pay things. So sometimes you may be like, how can you spend this on this? And they be like, we can't even use that money for that. It is for a design purpose.
That is a certain part of that is true. Yeah. But they're going to use smoke and mirrors. They're going to gaslight. Like I said, they called a 5-minute recess that lasted 45 minutes. They were there for the games. And so to say that there is no way to provide for this program because, it's a separate pot of money, we need to look at the pot of money that pays for this program then. Mm-hmm. Then let's not talk about the porta potties. Let's talk about the money that is there,
right.
And they weren't trying to have that conversation,
right.
were they? So it's smoke and mirrors.
It's funny how you do that. Like I was saying, I was only talking about them voting yes and voting no on certain issues. They was like, the money ain't the same. I ain't talking about the money. I'm talking about the
it's the principle.
The principle.
Yeah, it's the priorities, and we shouldn't be having a conversation like this. Should have been funded. The state provides 75% of the money. We had the executive director of HRC offering to fundraise to raise the rest. Now, sure, the city might have been left foot in the bill if the money was not raised, but look what happened with the Fusus technology. It's an attorney. It's a program out of the Attorney General's office, right? So right now it's a trial program for free. It's not free after June. But they have approved it indefinitely. So what the cops are going to do is come back and say, it costs this much, and you will not see nearly as much opposition for writing that check.
I want to talk about some of the talking points of the people who agreed with number 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is basically siding with the city manager, right? What they said was that they don't want to have to cover 12 counties, right? And Turner Slough said, out of the people that are there in these different counties, right? You have Auglaize, you have Warren, you have all these separate places that doesn't have a large share of minorities there. So we still will be getting a lion's share of
literally half.
Yeah. So how do you feel about their argument compared to our belief?
I just don't think Dayton. We are the regional center of the economic center of this region, I should say, and the idea that we can get large grants like for the MBAC and not share the resources with the entire region, I think is ridiculous to begin with. Passing it to the Chamber of Commerce is not going to keep those 12 counties from accessing the resources. Mm-hmm. It doesn't change the parameters of the program, which says we have to serve the entire region. Right. So now the Chamber of Commerce is just doing the same thing.
So how many other chamber of commerce are there within that same 12 county?
I mean, I venture to say that every municipality has its own chamber.
For sure. So like my argument is, okay, so that funding that was literally allocated towards 12, and we were getting most of the money, and most of these places can't use it because they don't even have the raise your hand if you you know what I'm saying? Why wouldn't we go after that funding when it's nothing but them literally using the same template that like they've been using for this amount of time? You had to change and update 2 different things. And the other talking point was, what was it, $200,000 over, or it was $400,000.
Right, the match.
Right. So to me, I'm like, why wouldn't they want to hire? That bringing two more jobs. Like bringing jobs is a good thing, right?
I mean, we literally just lost city jobs. Like they they want to talk about job creation. You literally just fired 3 people. Yeah, make it make sense.
So, how much you think is the play based off the federal level, inflation, all these different things that come into play, rather than it just being a Dayton, Ohio issue?
I mean, inflation certainly plays a role. Everybody can feel it. Things cost more at the grocery store. Services cost more. So it's crazy to think that the government would not have to respond to that. But think about who inflation impacts the most. It's not developers. It's not, landfills. It's not the wealthy and the well-connected. So why are we responding in a way, that disadvantages businesses that need more support while inflation is high and while we're just getting out of a pandemic that already crippled a lot of Black businesses and other minority-owned businesses? You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make sense. The vision does not align for what we need in this community. And it's just, it's happening because they think they can get away with it, and you see, as soon as we respond, it's not, they've already made the decision. They've already made the promises. So we can't change that. But the decision that they make next, they'll think about, oh, is it going to be 12 people at the commission meeting, screaming at me about this next decision? And so we just have to keep doing it. We didn't stop them this time. But they know we're out there and they know we're listening, we're watching, and we're responding and we're engaged. And I think that's extremely important for Dayton because we have a lot of people who are not paying attention in this community.
So 2 more gripes before we get to your life story, right? 2 of my gripes that I did not like was, number one, they had $512,000 that they're going to test demolished buildings for asbestos. Demolished buildings that they're going to demolish and take off. $512,000 to test it for asbestos. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking maybe you just treat all the house like the asbestos and handle it accordingly. But $500,000 to test it after you are going to demolish it, to me, seems terrible, and they all voted in unison for it. The second one was the Portland Loos. How do you feel about the Portland Loos? $312,000.
I mean, they're expensive. We do need more public restrooms. I don't see why we can't just unlock the restrooms that are there, already. But it's for the cops. The cops want to be able to watch everything you do. They want to be able to arrest people who are addicted to drugs or who are in mental crises. And, so they're putting out metal toilets. Ching, ching. They're putting out metal toilets with with windows in,
Whoa. And you want them to arrest the people downtown because they want to use the restroom?
No, I don't want them to arrest people for wanting to use the restroom. But if people are down there acting crazy and mental,
they are crazy. They are mental.
Well, get them out.
They're literally setting up traps to catch mentally health people.
Well, they gotta figure it out, bro, because that's not safe, man. You can't have people downtown.
I mean,
people are catching the bus trying to get home from work and getting assaulted, ran up on by people that got probably got to be down there.
Is not the
create mousetraps for them. Like what? By having police down there.
They literally look like jails.
Like they literally are. So to bring you up, right? These are $312,000 for 2 restrooms that they're going to put in 2 different.
One outside City Hall, number 1.
Right, which is so irony of the foolish that they helped to put it there. But
I ain't talking about I'm not talking about the porta potties or the spending the money or anything.
No, we certainly need to do something about
the policing of people who are out of control.
So
that is the wrong mindset.
So like what I'm saying
It's the
is
wrong
this.
mindset to
police them. Yes, we need to take care of them. Like they are in literally in mental health crisis.
So listen,
They don't belong in jail.
We shouldn't be closing down mental health institutions, and then now they have nowhere to go. There literally was a place to house these people that fed them, clothed them, took care of them, gave them certain type of activities to keep them in play, help them rehabilitate.
A place to lock them up at.
Provide them resources. What are they getting in jail? I'm sorry.
I'm just saying they putting them away. They're unable to leave.
It's not that we need them roaming the streets. We agree with that. What they really need is support and resources, though, not jail, not the cops. No, I think that's a little. They don't even need to be arrested. They don't even need to be in handcuffs.
They even put
the police need to be around in case they have a mental break. Is all I'm saying.
No, we have mental health professionals for that. Have you not seen the cops shoot somebody that was literally in mental crisis?
Where should the police be if it's not there to where they know that it's a potential for some danger to happen? Like, where else should they be?
In these places,
because as soon as okay, you say that, but
they're honing around the rest of our neighborhood, but they want to be downtown.
If they don't, because if they do have some kind of episode, okay, and nobody's there, and it's well known that they're frequenting these places, and the police ain't there. You're like, damn, where was the police at? They was going and harassing somebody while this was happening. But then when they set up shop and they're right there to make sure that they're because everybody downtown.
First of all, our police do have a unit now, thanks to our current city commission. You know, they are not all bad. I will attest to that. We have mental health professionals who respond to some of these things because even the cops admit that they're not the ones who need to be responding to this. I won't say is my point is even the police admit that this is not something that they need to be doing, and it's not in their purview of policing, which is why we have mental health professionals who show up to mental health crises now. So even they will tell you this is not our job. There are people who are much better equipped to deal with the people who need mental health resources than police.
When somebody has a psychotic break, okay, I'm not talking about mental health.
Do you think this happens, man?
Enough.
I mean, there are mental health professionals to deal with a psychotic break. You don't need cops for that. I mean, are you talking about a person that is psychotic and running around with a gun? You said what?
Should we station those people downtown?
Yes.
So are we not doing that?
No. They respond there. You know, all of our police is incident driven.
From
police officers should be trained.
Police stations. I mean, no, not the social workers. They might come out of the public.
They might need to set up the social workers facility right downtown.
That's a great point.
I mean, they need social workers in our neighborhoods. In
our schools.
This whole city is in mental crisis.
All I'm saying to de-escalate a situation, because mental health people are strong. Yes.
I mean, but people who work in these communities understand that they need somebody. They know what their job is, just like nurses know how to pick up heavy people. They understand what the job is.
That's always my point. Is listen.
Well, all I'm saying is
nurses got to deal with mental health.
Just like teachers, teachers understand what the job entails. Like, we're not talking about people who are not trained for this.
Okay, I'm just saying. When it gets down to it, like, man, if my kids are catching the bus home from school and it's a lot of jumping going on downtown.
You want the cops down there. We get it.
Yeah, I do. And I want good cops, man. I don't got no bicker with good police officers who are here to actually help a situation. I know that, man, there is an agenda to make black people definitely just hate police officers, and an also equal agenda to make police officers hate black people. But it's all unnecessary. Like, man, because the same way that there are bad cops, man, there are actually bad people.
We're getting back to the individuals, though. When I tell you the system of policing is not set up to respond to mental health crises.
The system of policing works pretty well.
They shoot mental health
system of
patients.
Policing it works.
They have brutalized mental health patients because their job is to
every nation
job is to
has
detain
police officers, bro. Like, this ain't something that's just
nobody wants a world without cops. Like, that's not what I'm saying. If my car gets broken into, I don't have a car. I don't even drive. But if my house gets broken into, I don't, I want to be able to call the cops. This is not about removing policing or individual cops. What I'm telling you is when police respond to mental health incidents, they shoot the patients. They brutalize the patients. We have seen it on video. They are not equipped they're equipped to deal with people shooting in schools. That's who you want to take down. You don't want to take down a mental health patient. Like, that's not the same mindset. That's what I'm saying. The system of policing is not set up for that. They respond to many things with violence. That is what they are trained to do.
I think I've seen them do. I'm not saying for all people, right? But for some sectors, I've seen them handle great restraint when it comes to.
I have
too. I've seen cops, people popping off in their face, and they have been cool as a cucumber. It's not the individual. We are talking about the system. And everybody can bring up the anecdotes. Let's talk about the data. That is why people are instituting programs.
Let's talk about the data.
That's why people are instituting programs like this across the country, because the data has shown that cops are not responding in the proper way.
He gonna say he don't believe the data. He gonna say, where you get the data from? I've been here a bunch of times.
It's not even that. What I think that we do is we focus on the smaller piece of the data and act like that is the norm when it's really an outlier.
No, they're not responding to an outlier in policing. They are responding to the overwhelming police response to mental health incidents in hospitals.
Out of 100 police calls that are happening,
I mean, we're gonna have to go to
some type of inappropriate resolution.
I mean, it's gonna take me a while to look it up, but Google is our friend.
Out of 100, I'm just saying, what do you think?
I can't guess at something like that.
So what I'm telling you is, I think out of 100 police calls that happen.
And what are you basing your thought on? What are you basing this opinion on?
From news, from me living every day, from me not seeing every news story a police officer done destroy the person that they went out on.
Okay, so I just want to establish we're talking anecdotal evidence here. Everybody has stories.
You're talking anecdotal evidence though.
No,
what you're saying that when a system is broken, and to me, when I see something broken, that means that it's not working effectively. And there's not just an overwhelming amount of complaints every single day on the news, story after story after story of police bumbling and fumbling situations. They might do it once a day. Out of 100 calls, the percentage of that is still excellent. It's an A on the test. It's not an F.
The police are not getting an A in responding to mental health patients. I'm sorry. I'm looking up some data right now. I mean, we can take a second to pause. We can take a 5 to 45 minute recess like yesterday. Let's put a pin in this conversation though. Let's put a pin in this.
That goes back to what you're saying though. The system of dealing with mental health patients might not be well. I don't even know if it's not well or not, but you're saying it's not well, and I think that you've been looking into this, so I'll give you that. But what I'm saying is, I think a lot of these calls that police are dealing with has a dab of mental health in there. Probably I would say probably I don't even.
I mean, a lot of people.
I know I couldn't do that job.
A lot of people.
For a fact, I could not be out here.
Bro, you don't know.
I mean, we just say. We can acknowledge that a lot of people are in undiagnosed mental crises. So if we're talking about a situation where police might be responding to domestic violence, that's not technically labeled mental health, but somebody, one of the two, could definitely be in something could be going on. Yes. So you're very right. And when we're talking about the general idea of policing, yes, they are doing their normal job of, showing up, responding to normal things. Like, I don't want to take that away from the cops. They do a good job. And that what I'm saying is not about that, because, when like I said, when somebody breaks into your car, your house, and the cops show up, they generally do what they are supposed to do, and they don't come and beat you up for it. Yeah. But we have seen, people call the cops and they've been the victim, and it's happened. They call right. Like I call the police because I'm in a situation. They say, "What's your social security number?" Right. To check me for warrants. I'm like, this system is broken. Yeah, it's broken at that point. Exactly. Right. That's what I'm talking about. So police are doing a good job with the day-to-day, the run-of-the-mill. That's not what I'm saying, and God bless them for doing it, because to Peanut's point, none of us want to be cops.
Right.
And they deserve to be paid more, just like the firefighters, because they do put their lives on the line. They do interact with a lot of people who are in crises, who are in situations that we don't have to interact with on a day. Sometimes, if you're downtown, sometimes you do, but you know,
Downtown.
you know. So
They
I
shot
mean,
up the Christmas parade.
I hear everything you're saying. I hear everything you're saying,
Bro.
And we do need police to
Marcus,
respond to
they
shootings.
they
We
shot
need
up
police to
the-
respond
They
to
shot
shootings.
The Christmas parade.
They shot up the
But
Christmas
that's what
parade
we call
this
the
year,
cops
bro.
when they're shooting, not when somebody is having a crisis in a
God.
bathroom, or somebody is addicted to drugs and shooting up in the bathroom. That's not when we need to call the
Another
cops.
thing is also like inside of these metal porta potties, they're gonna put a Sharpies bin in there, so you can go there and shoot up.
They
You gotta
have
shoot up
like blue
Are you
lights, so people
serious?
can't find
They
their.
got what, bro?
They got a Sharpies bin inside of these.
So they can put their needles.
to put their needles
They
in
have
That's crazy.
they have blue lights in them too, so they make it hard to find your veins. So they're like literally designed to, like, you know, be like, you do drugs,
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, man. You know, and if this was crack, and it's because of the heroin epidemic is affecting non-black people,
there.
bro.
Oh, here we go. Now we in agreement.
This is seriously like
We've been in
man,
agreement.
Yeah,
We've been in agreement.
Yeah, for sure. Like, man, we just kind of like coming from different angles,
Yeah.
but we are saying the same thing.
For sure.
But that's crazy.
That is.
It's like, man, give them some clean needles too.
Right.
Got to do that. And look, just a dime bag.
I mean,
They
but
need them
I
with
mean,
thing, too.
the
They
point
fucked up.
is, the
So
point
they
is,
need
we
them
have.
with
I mean, the drug crisis is so bad that we do have a problem with stray needles. Like, you know, so we need places for them to drop these things off. Unfortunately, but once again, we're treating the symptoms and not the problem. You know, I happen to believe, my philosophy anyway is that a lot of this is based on the poor conditions of our economy. You know, the low incomes, the lack of health care, mental health care, the lack of quality education. It leads to the conditions we see now. And once again, a lot of it is because of the decisions that are being made are not to support us and to create a community where we can thrive. And that's why we see, you know, a rise in mental health crises. That's why we see a rise in drug addiction. That's why we see a rise in suicide. My goodness, you know, because the conditions, the living conditions here are so poor, and people don't want to acknowledge it because, you know, you want to say you're doing okay. You don't want to have to tell anybody I'm struggling right now. You know, so we all pretend that it's fine. It is not fine. You know, we see people literally walking around Dayton that look like zombies, and I don't mean to be disparaging. But those are the living conditions. Even seeing that upsets me. So, you know, now I got a thought in my head of that person. Like, what do they need? What haven't we done? Where have we gone wrong? Who do they not have in their lives? You know, so, and just seeing that over and over and over across this community for so long, let me add, it's disheartening.
Well, I have a question. So, what would one commissioner power be able to accomplish, and what can the full seat of commissioners accomplish?
I mean, I think when you're talking about what you can do as a representative, because that's what commissioners are. I mean, they have voting power, you know, when it comes to the budget and city ordinances, but they're representatives also. So be visible, be present, speak to the issues. You know, there's so much we can do that is not the voting power that doesn't get done in our community. So I worked for Congress in constituent services. I had to be out at libraries asking, you know, random people, you know, do you need help with Medicare? Do you need help with Social Security? Is your son trying to go to West Point? You know, why aren't they out there asking? You know, some of them are, but instead of asking businesses what they need all the time, downtown specific, ask the community what they need. Connect them to resources. There are so many people out here. I was making this point yesterday. There are so many people out here doing amazing work. We saw a panel of like 8, 9 people, all had organizations, all movers and shakers.
9.
Right, 9. No props, but
Yeah,
you know, everybody doing something.
for sure.
Let's connect our community to those people.
Yeah.
You know, and we can use the government to do it. You know, you are a representative, be a conduit, build a bridge.
Right.
And so, you know, that's the school of organizing. I come from this. I got started in politics, registering people to vote. I was on Bowling Green's campus near Toledo, not Kentucky. And
We're gonna tell your life story.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Perfect segue.
Oh, okay.
Stop. Let's start over. Right. So here on the Legendary People podcast, we'd like to find out the origins of our legends. So without further ado, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Townview.
Townview, TVT, man. Shout out to TVT for sure. What was some of your early experiences in the neighborhood?
So like I was kind of a loner kid. I was the youngest child. I had my friends.
How many siblings?
Well, when I grew up with my two siblings, my sister and my brother, but my biological dad, Papa, was a Rolling Stone. So I have like 13 siblings, in fact. Some of them live around Dayton, and they have my same face. So
nah,
right. No, legit. But yeah, so I, plenty of siblings, but grew up in Townview. What did you ask me specifically? What was I talking about? What did I do around Dayton? Yeah, I was in like the Dayton Boys Choir.
What was the neighborhood like in Townview?
We kicked it in the neighborhood. I had friends on all the streets. Walked to A and B sometimes. Sometimes bopped across Hoover. Yeah. So, the existence we all had, playing on the street, kicking it, pretty safe. Townview had a reputation, but when first of all, I lived on Swinger, which was that last street all the way up into the neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
So super quiet.
I'm familiar with Quarter. Yeah.
So Quarter is like down Gardendale, go all the way up Gardendale, all the way up the hill, last street.
Shout out to my stepbrothers, man. DeVale, Junie, Rex, all that, man.
So I went to church growing up. So a lot of singing in the choir, a lot of MLK workshops growing up, singing at Paul Laurence Dunbar memorials, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I was about to get to singing in the Dayton Boys Choir. So, that took me to learning more of a classical music kind of thing than the gospel, and, just kicked it. Just a really normal childhood. I was not super active in sports. I did karate for a long time.
Oh shit! Hey, watch out, bro.
I'm waiting for somebody to throw a punch in this election because your boy knows how to hit back. Nah,
right.
But no, yeah. So just did normal stuff.
Who are some of your day one friends?
Well, actually, my partner, he's not day one, but we've been friends since middle school. Okay. Aaron Vance, a lot of people know him. We've been friends since middle school. My friend Brian, we grew up on the same street, so we've been friends since like 5th grade. My friend Amber, she cannot vote for me because she's in Harrison Township.
Oh, man.
But we've been friends since middle school.
So city, man. Come on, man. He needs your vote.
Yeah, y'all got to vote for Amber. Y'all got to make up for my mom. She's in West Carrollton. So, yeah, come on out and vote. But, my circle of friends I've had forever, really.
That's hard.
Yeah.
So what elementary school did you go to?
Westbrook.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a Trotwood kid. I went to Westbrook, yeah.
So, what kind of kid were you on the early side of things?
Talkative. I was funny. I've always had a little clap back, in me. I sang, so people knew me for that. But, I'm normal kid, I guess.
Okay.
Was the thing about Trotwood is my whole family went there, so a lot of people knew me. So you had that kind of thing to deal with, like people knowing you and you not knowing who they are, from like teachers and parents included. But it was real normal. I wasn't a bad kid. I mean, I got in trouble a little bit, but wasn't a bad kid. I got good grades, stayed on the honor roll. I was top of my class at some point.
So besides singing, were there any childhood interests that kind of led to who you are today?
I grew up watching the news with my granny.
Okay.
Yeah, so shout out to Cheryl Mckinley, Channel 7.
Yeah, for sure. The legend.
Natasha Williams.
The legend, okay.
So grew up watching the news. Oprah, she talked issues a lot. We lost my man Jerry Springer.
R.I.P. Jerry Springer.
Rest in peace to the mayor of Cincinnati.
For sure.
So those kind of things I think created a thoughtful Marcus, hearing people talk about issues, racism in some cases, made me really thoughtful. But like I said, it wasn't until Barack Obama started running that it became political specifically.
Right. Okay. So, like you talk about like dad being Rolling Stone. What was mom like?
My mom was, the boss, she ran things. My dad, I had a stepdad that's been there my whole life, and shout out to my dad, Mr. Parker. Sure. And he certainly was the provider, but my mom was just a nurturer. I talked about this before, but I grew up out and open, as a queer child, because I had girlfriends too. But
Okay, now
but in fact, one of my girlfriends, shout out Tiffany, I gave her my mom's class ring one time.
Oh.
Like it was, it was like real emeralds and stuff. I thought it was just some, little plaything. I got in trouble for giving her that ring, but
Did mom make you go get it back?
Yeah, oh definitely. Bring that ring back tomorrow. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that was a big one. But she was the boss. Like I said, I had older siblings. My brother is 6 years older, and my sister is 3 years older. And my sister was kind of like hell on wheels. So my mom was on her a lot. I had a lot of freedom, a lot of nurturing. I didn't really have to come out to my mom. She just kind of knew who I was, and and she was a church secretary, so she was not okay with it in a sense. Like, she wishes other things for me to this day, but she's always supported me, in who I am and, what I say my identity is. So just a really lucky kid, because I grew up with gay friends and they did not have that same support. They weren't like, neglected or thrown away, but they just didn't have that same kind of support in who they wanted to be. And so I consider myself very lucky. I knew what I had was unusual, because I did see some people get kicked out when they came out to their parents. I grew up and all my friends were churchy, so you tell your pastor father you were gay, you out of here. So I've seen a lot of things, but I was lucky, and I'm blessed to this day. Like, my kids are literally with my parents right now, and they've been telling me all day, like, we tired, because I've been in this thing, and my mom watches my kids a lot, but just always been supportive. Always.
How do you feel about, that being a political issue now, rather than just being a case-by-case scenario between parent and child? How do you feel about the government now having their play in it?
I mean, we are in the land of the free, the home of the brave, so they say. And all the Republican Party knows how to do now is legislate who you are allowed to be, what you are allowed to say, what you can do. They are trying to control people and revert us back to when we could not be self. And it's really dangerous because they're targeting children. And, what happens when you say, I'm protecting the kids, is you get a whole group of people who think like, oh, yeah, we don't need to be letting kids decide who they are, and it becomes this really hyped up thing, but you're actually hurting children, because these are really developmental formative years for kids. And when you're telling them, you're giving them pushback on who they are growing to be, and a certain part of being a parent, like I said, I have 2 kids, is pushback and making sure they learn things that they need to know. But we have gotten to a place as adults where we think that is telling children who they are. Okay. And I think that's a step too far in being a parent, because you have to allow your child to be who they were designed to be. I'm religious, but even if you're not religious, this person was created before they were even born, way before you maybe gave them a name or even knew they were there. So there are characteristics in that person that are innate. And who are we to say what that is?
Right.
So, I just think we are on really dangerous territory when we start to legislate who people can be.
I agree. So, like, how do you feel about the the part of it being a education piece? I mean, because like you grew up in an era where there wasn't an education piece, and you turned out to be fine, right? Well, this is my perspective.
I mean, part of what growing up, how I did with parents who were supportive is I was able to look up resources. Like, I can go to the library and get books by gay authors and things like that, and really develop kind of a perspective for what was happening in my life. But nowadays, I think it's not even that the education piece was missing. I think we are miseducating, and I think we just learned wrong things, and that we can control who somebody is growing into. And it's really dangerous, because where do we stop? What is okay at a certain point? They have problems with skin color in some cases. So are we going to start, biologically trying to say you can't be black? You can't, this is really, really dangerous stuff. We can decide the sex of our children with some science now. So there's no telling where science stops. A lot of Nazism had scientific research behind it. You know what I'm saying? So we are on dangerous ground. We are taking away people's medical care. That is science right there. Right. And when we are removing gender affirming resources from children, That's science. So we're already touching on it, and it just gets really scary because these are the people. Once again, I'll bring it back to an election. All these people that are making these decisions won an election. There's nothing special about them aside the fact that they got people to vote for them. And we can flip the scales. We just got to show up.
Right. So, I don't want to stay there, but just like one final question about that is like, what was it like to come out? Like, was there any pushback from like, were you bullied in any respect? Can we talk about that?
Yeah. So I think a common response for adults when a child tells you who they are is to bully them. You stop walking like that. Stop talking like that. Don't do that. Why are you watching that? And you, as a kid, you internalize that. It never came from my parents, thank God. But I had a brother. It's like you talk like a girl, and beat and beat you up. My brother was 6 years older than me, so a lot of times it felt like an adult because he was so much older. But adults certainly do that kind of thing. Stop walking like that. You're at church. Lower your voice. Or deep. Put some bass in your voice. That kind of stuff is bullying. I talked how I talked. And here you are, telling me to be and do something else. Like it's not physical bullying, but you internalize that, and it creates if you let it. And I was very confident in who I was, thank God. But if you let it, it can create a complex, and then you start talking like this, because your brother pounded you in the chest. You know what I'm saying? So now you know what I'm saying. It's like once again, dangerous ground. Right. Yeah. But I was okay, thank God.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you. I definitely appreciate that, and I hope our viewers do as well. Yeah. So let's venture to middle school. Been a long time there, right? So where'd you go for middle school?
Trotwood.
So like, what was that experience like?
That in Trotwood we have the 6 elementaries, and in the middle school is when like everybody comes together. So like I was able to meet a lot of new friends. Like I said, that's where I met Barry, Aaron, Amber, our 7th grade choir, our mixed French class, things like that. So it was exciting in that I got to meet a lot of people that I didn't know. And after kindergarten through 6th grade at the same school, you knew everybody, and every year school, it was showing up seeing the same people. So it was definitely exciting to get to the middle school, see new faces. I was able to do choir, which was new, so more extracurriculars that I was into than like your regular art class and thing that you had to do in elementary. So it was cool.
What would you enjoy more, singing in church or the choir at school?
I mean, I think singing in the choir at school, they just had a more social component to, and our choir director at church for the youth choir was like, I was just talking about Miss Rhodes yesterday. Like she didn't play, you was not sitting up there talking. You was glorifying God, and that was our mission, and we were little Christian soldiers. All right. So, not a lot of fun as a kid. Now it became fun to the point that I started doing like the MLK workshops and stuff in the city. That's when all the kids from all around the city singing the big old choir for MLK Day. So it became fun in that I started doing stuff like that. But, it was definitely school choir was bomb because, you had your little friends and social circle and get in trouble for not talking. In fact, I got in a fight in choir once because, we not going
past it. What you mean? You done threw hands like,
oh,
your karate training that came out.
This is dating, no. No, I've certainly been in a fight, but no, I was in choir, and shout out to Ray. I've seen his mom a couple times during the campaign actually, and laughed about this. But the choir director was like, it's time to stop talking, get serious. And DeRay was still talking. I'm like, bro, we got to square up because you're interrupting what we here to do. No, I just took it too seriously. I'm sorry.
Y'all heard that, City Hall. Y'all heard that.
When I'm serious about something, I'm serious about something. Okay. I don't know.
For sure. So, middle school to high school transition. It's still Trotwood, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So around this time, I like to ask people because a lot of times, like, music is our backdrop, right? What kind of music were you into from that transition from middle school to high school?
I was listening to Well, so I've always been a Destiny's Child Beyonce fan. So
Okay, word.
you can find me listening
You in the
to
hive for sure.
any of that. I'm certified Beehive. I might be the president, founding member. My mom would let me stay home from school sometimes to like watch them on stuff like The View or Good Morning America. You know, like I had a stinger for sure. I was the Beehive, nah.
sure.
But only because I got good grades.
For sure.
But yeah, Destiny's Child, Beyonce for sure. I was into American Idol at the time, so probably some Fantasia. I was not big on rap, but you know, just the stuff that came on the radio. My parents listened to funk. You know, this is dating, so like I listened to a lot of my parents' music, the R&B, the funk, and then of course gospel. Ruben stuttered.
Right. So in high school, before you got to this point, what did you aspire to be like during your high school years?
I always saw myself like doing, funny enough, like a talk show or something. You know, I always kind of saw myself entertaining people somehow. I was like always the funny guy or having to sing or do something like that. And I didn't really get stage fright. So I was like, you know, I want to do something public, I guess. But then I really got into music and like the classical side of things. So by the time I graduated, I wanted to study music and did that. But then there was also another you know, thing inside of me where I wanted to be like a lawyer or a judge, and still do, honestly. You know, because you know that justice thing has always been like really ingrained in me. I've never liked seeing anything unfair happen. You know what I'm saying? Like I've stepped in and defended people getting picked on. You know, I mean, I've done my fair share playing the dozens as well. But like when it becomes too much, or when it's, you know, the person we don't really need to be talking about, I've certainly stepped in and be like, you know, that's not really fair. And I to this day I hate unfairness, but I saw myself talking.
Right. Okay. Okay. Cool. So, during the completion of your high school, like, what is your aspiration for like school? Like, I mean, are you entertaining college? Like, what are some of your, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you want to go to school for after high school?
Yeah. So like by the time I was in high school, I was in like the band. I had learned to play every instrument. I felt like a little prince, you know, like because I really taught myself every instrument in like a matter of months. I was like arranging some of our stuff that we played. So I was in it, and I applied to a couple schools for music and got into all of them. But got the most money from Bowling Green. And so I was and I had some friends that had gone to Bowling Green. One of my best friends, Brittany, had gone the year before. And she's actually been supporting me in the campaign, working with me. So shout out to Brittany.
Another day one.
You know, yeah, another day one. But yeah, certainly going to school for music. I applied to UC, Miami University, and then Bowling Green.
So, like, the money was the determining factor. Was there another one that you actually liked better, or?
Yes, I mean, CCM was a conservatory, so that would have meant that I could go and not have to do like all the gen rec courses. My college curriculum would have been music intensive, but going to Bowling Green meant that I had to do the general education curriculum as well, which was a disservice for me. It became very distracting because when you study music, you have to be in a certain number of ensembles. You have to do a recital at some point. You have to go to a certain number of events. And so it becomes, you know, a bigger chunk of your calendar than just your classes. And then I still had those classes, you know, so I'm talking about a freshman year where first semester I had 25 credit hours. The second semester I had 29, you know, so it was just like a lot to do. And it did me a disservice because I was not able to finish in time, which then cut off the money, you know, and so it just became a whole rigmarole.
But I'm glad about the experience of, you know, like you living in Trotwood, right? So, like, during that time, whatever, I mean, like, we all know what Trotwood is today, where, you know what I'm saying, there's a food desert and things of that nature. But during that time, you know, like, Trotwood was like the, you feel me, it's the chocolate, you know what I'm saying? It's like the chocolate city of the elite blacks. I mean, we can safely say that.
Yes, we can.
What was it like to like transition from there to Bowling Green, and what was that transition like? You know, just from going from that situation to the next.
Yeah, I mean, aside from Dayton Boys Choir and like a few things I had done around the community, like I had done like a little honors band kind of thing at UD, stuff like that. That was my first real interaction with predominantly white spaces, and so it was shocking. Like I was just telling this story the other day. My first voice lesson. my voice teacher called me articulate. She was like, who are you and where are you from? And I just answered, and she was just impressed by the fact that I could speak English. And I was just like, oh, okay, all right. She's like, wow, you're really articulate. And I'm like, well, I went to school. That's that's what happens there. I don't know the last time you went, but
this is not elementary school. Yeah. I already passed the prerequisite.
I mean, this is college. Like I'm a college freshman. What did you think I was going to sound like? But that's neither here nor there. But just really shocking. And to my point about registering voters, like there was a lot of people talking John McCain and Sarah Palin on that campus, and I was like, hell no. Right. I will not be surrounded by people about to vote for Sarah Palin. So I started registering voters to vote for Barack Obama specifically. I'm like, do you know who you're voting for in this election? I mean, I would literally pull up cabinet members, like, look how well qualified they are. This is who he plans to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was really making the pitch because it was important, and being around, so many melanin deficient people, it kind of lit a fire under me for his presidency specifically, because everybody back home was like, can't wait to elect a black president. Nobody was talking like that in Bowling Green.
So, like, what was your ratio of converting people out there?
I mean, I registered probably 300 people.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I did not stop.
Only for the good, right?
Yeah, I did not stop. My voice teacher, God bless her, who called me articulate. She called me out in one of our studio classes and was like, is everybody registered to vote? And that happened a lot. Like in spaces where I work, and they knew I was registering people, they in most cases were like, talk to Marcus real quick, so.
That's hard. So how did that situation end at Bowling Green?
What do you mean?
So, did you graduate or did you?
Oh, no. So I went into a 5th year and didn't have the money to finish. Yeah, so I came home.
Okay.
And
what was that like when? I mean, because I went to school later on in life. Where I was already grown, already on my own. I was already,
sometimes I look back and say I wish I would have waited, but yeah.
For sure. So, like, what was it like to, go straight out of high school to come back home not with a degree? How did that feel coming back home? Not with a degree?
Like, I've always known my value outside of, these kind of accolades, these kind of like respectability politics things. And that's not to disparage degrees, because I certainly want to go back to finish. I was just telling Barry, I want to go to Central State and finish my music degree. So like, this is not to disparage finishing and having those achievements, but I have always known, my worth outside of that. And so, yes, it was demoralizing, in that it once again highlighted the economic conditions for a story like mine. For when I left for college, my dad was taking the buyout from Delphi. So losing a job, so that's already what I'm going to college with. So the fact that I fought through 4 years, I had a job probably a month after I got on campus, because it was necessary. I had to buy tickets to events. I had to go on tours with choirs. You need money to eat, money for, whatever you want to do while you out on the road. So I was doing a lot, and I was proud of what I had achieved, working through college, getting myself that far, on a lot of scholarships and things like that. So, I knew what I was leaving with, had added some value. But it was disappointing that, number one, education is so expensive, like that was disappointing to start with, so it highlighted a lot of the things that, and I was not the only person to not finish college so it just highlighted how
Kanye West, right?
So it highlighted the conditions that create these kinds of stories. And, once again, I brought it back to, we need to fix this. College needs to be more affordable. You shouldn't be faced with, do I eat or do I pay, my tuition? If we say college is important, let's make it important, and let's make sure we're not making critical decisions like that. Do I pay for classes or feed myself? Right. And education is one of the indicators where we're falling super behind the rest of the world. So it's not just my story, it's the future of this country, and we really need to make college more affordable, make it more accessible. I wish I had been pipelined into one of the HBCUs right here. I would have been much closer to a support system. Like all kinds of things could have been different. So I have a lot of ideas about what we can do in education, and create that pipeline and make sure we bump up enrollment for our HBCUs because that means more money from the federal government and grants. Central State is a huge agricultural school. Like we could really, make some things happen for Dayton. But yeah, coming back without the degree was disappointing, but I didn't let it define me, and I couldn't let it define me because then, what would I have been? A college dropout, and it would have ended there.
That's hard. So what do you do when you come back? I mean, you get a job, or you looking at that next move because I mean, we know you leave the city eventually, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, well, it started at Sinclair. I was taking some paralegal classes and stuff and matriculating.
Sinclair,
and matriculating through that program. And funny enough, that's when I met my kid's mother. And so, we started chopping it up, reconnecting because I knew her in high school. And we got really close, and before you know it, we were dating. So
dating and
dating. But I dated my kid's mother, and the job prospects here were not great, so she ended up getting a job up north, and so that's what took me up there eventually. She moved up there first.
Up there for love.
First she moved to Connecticut. She ended up getting a job in the city with Tiki Barber. So she had to relocate to the city, and then eventually. Was he
football during that time, or he was
just doing a radio show. Okay. No, he was not playing at the time. And just followed her up there, and to keep our connection. And I started really with the ability, because we didn't have kids at the time, being able to do like some performing. I set up some recitals and concerts at different venues. Got to do an opera. Was singing at a church up there. All that kind of stuff was going on, and then we had our little bundles of joy.
How did that feel? To I mean, because I didn't know how like you felt up to that point, but like, what was it like to find like, yo, I got a baby on the way? And,
So I grew up in a family that we support our babies. We babysit them. We all knew how to change diapers. My brother had a son when I was younger in high school, so I knew how to change a diaper. So that's just kind of what I grew up in. But first of all, when you spend most of your dating years dating men, you are just like, wow, like here I am about to have a biological child. And that's just not where I saw myself. Like, when you're a teenager and you in college, I didn't really date in college. I was too busy for that, but it was just kind of surreal to, for me to think about who I was as a person and be like, you're about to have a child. You're going to have to explain this to people who think you are something totally different than a father.
I never thought of it being like that.
Yeah. I mean, people ask, like, and I was not at home at the time. So, people didn't know how close Nakia and I were. I'm sorry to say her name, but my kid's mother and I were. So people were asking questions of not even me. They were asking questions of my friends. Like, what is that his real baby? So like, people's minds are just, when you take yourself out of the box, people don't know how to label you, and it becomes very confusing. So that there was a lot of that
joke up to the comment said to me, when you take it out the box, I'm like, hey, wait a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
But so like there was some type of mental strain on you of like, okay, I have to explain it. So, for instance, like a little bit of my backstory, right? When I got I literally started off 16 years old with a baby on the way, and I'm having a different type of anxiety of how do I explain how I got a baby this early, and I still get it now today when I'm like, yo, I got a 19-year-old. They're like, damn, how old are you? It always bring that little funny feeling right back. Like I still feel that way. Like, man, I already done been through that.
Right, yeah.
But just that dynamic there, I share that with you. So just. If you ain't got no kids, you don't understand.
Yeah, no. I mean, because it's so personal. Obviously, it's extremely intimate how you create the children, and suddenly you find yourself explaining something that is like you haven't even figured out in that little dynamic, your family unit, and so it just becomes like easily overwhelming. Yeah.
Okay. So while you're out there, are you starting any of your voting registry habits? Like, are you active in that field?
Yeah, so I got some pictures at some rallies and stuff. I was definitely knocking doors. I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. Right, I moved.
Shout out to Bernie, man.
I moved right during that election, actually. So during that primary, so I was a huge Bernie Sanders supporter. Volunteered for him up there, knocked some doors, did some phone banks and things like that. Voted for him definitely.
Did you get a chance to meet him?
No, I never got a chance to meet Bernie.
Bernie,
No,
never mind,
no,
Bernie. You ain't
no.
get no shout out, man. You ain't
It's
slide.
okay. He's a good. He's still a cool guy. No,
Yeah.
no. I met some people from his team, but never got to meet him personally. But I did work for AOC.
AOC, I love AOC, man. AOC, if you watching this, come on.
Yeah, I mean,
AOC.
she know I need some love. I've been trying to reach out, but she's busy. She's busy as hell, actually.
I love AOC.
I mean,
like,
what's so crazy about that situation is all I knew about her up until that point was like the media sensation. So like you meet her and she's extremely humble. Like our interview was on Zoom, you know, like, and she's just like, you know, in the camera like a normal person, you know. And you know, she hired me. Like we did the Zoom, and then I got the call like 20 minutes later that I was hired. And like she remained extremely humble, extremely accessible. Like, you know, there were some pretty tumultuous times socially while I was with the office. So, you know, that's when we had George Floyd. She reached out personally and was like, you know, take some time off to just deal with the news, you know, and come back when you're ready. And so like, it was just like, you know, an unofficial little vacation that she just gave me for a mental health break. So like, she was very responsive, very in tune. Shout outs to AOC, definitely walks the walk.
So, what can you learn from her from some of, like, for instance, so when I think about politicians, I think about, okay, you're going to have this raging support that's running with you, but then you also have the complete opposite of that, because I watch both the newses, right? That means both the news, both the newses, right? We in Dane, right? We can say it like that, right? So I'll see the negative things like that say about AOC, and then of course the positive things. What can you learn about how she navigated having that hate also with that love?
I think what is so similar, that's a great question, honestly, because she gets a lot of shit from her own party. And I think, you know, the Republicans are always going to attack. They're always going to attack Democrats, number one. They're always going to attack effective women, number two. So we saw it with Hillary. We saw it with Hillary Clinton. We saw it with Speaker Pelosi. We're seeing it with AOC. Absolutely. She's effective. She gets her message out. They attack her. But the real fascinating part about AOC's opposition is that what really stops her is her own party. They were trying to keep her from certain committees, you know, and they were trying to make sure she couldn't, you know, endorse people and they win elections and build her political credit. That same thing happens here. So everybody running for city commission is a Democrat.
Right. So is that
but our local Democratic Party has endorsed two people, the incumbents, and they did this before the ballot was even official, you know. So number one, not very small D Democratic for the big D Democratic Party, but number two, it's the Democrats fighting me that I'm running against. That are, you know, there was some points in the campaign where things were said about some of the team that worked for me, you know, could have jeopardized their livelihoods, you know. So just, you know, playing real games with people's lives over democracy. Like, you know, this is for everybody. Win or lose, I'm allowed to run. Right. You're allowed to run. You know, Chico down the street is allowed to run.
Shout out to Chico.
You know, the mentally, the people in mental health crisis have a right to run.
Shout out to Kanye West.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. So that democracy is for everyone. Yeah. Once you know, reach those constitutional requirements, that's it. You know, and so people start to make gates and rules that you got to get around to participate in democracy, and that's you know, the antithesis of democracy.
Speaking of which, I'll be remiss to not do this. Okay, I wouldn't be good at segues. One, that how you feel about Joe Cooley Love? And I mean, I literally helped her get those signatures. I was there to get people's names and things of that nature, and they discredit so many of her signatures based off of small technicalities. Like a guy's name will be Alexander, he put Alex. How do you feel about that? I
mean, we need to change that signature requirement, number one. It shouldn't be 500 people, because what we saw is we start to eat each other's support. You know, I met Joe collecting signatures. we formed some solidarity, started collecting together, and then that ended up hurting both of us.
Wow.
You know, because we had duplicate signatures. We both started collecting signatures at the rec and different things.
So they would take away based off y'all having the same. So who they give it to? They just take away both?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, well, it's based on date. So if somebody else got that signature first, signed it with the date, that's who they gave it to. But then, you know, what happened is it ended up being a fight 2 weeks later. And, you know, that's how David Israeli got on the ballot, because, you know, he was saying some of my signatures were duplicates and this and that. The problem is we have to get too many. You only need 50 signatures to run for any other office in this community, including federal Congress.
50.
And to run for,
I think it's time to put my name in that hat.
I know I can get you 500. I turned in 815 over 7, and over 700 were valid.
See,
so
you play legendary people podcast.
so I can help you out. You know, we got some people in mind for county commission and all that, but school board.
Y'all ready to put my name?
Ready. But no, sorry. But yeah, it's cumbersome for no reason. Aside to be another obstacle to participate in democracy. But then when you're talking about the disenfranchisement specifically, that is disheartening to people. When you're like, oh, I wanted Joe to be on the ballot. I wanted Joe to be on the ballot. You see Matt Joseph and Chris Shaw, you know, playing buddy cop everywhere. You get both of their flyers. They on the same flyer. They you know, all their signs are joined at the hip all around the community, you know.
He like pop in.
Yeah, you know, so I would have loved to do that with Joe.
Yeah.
You know, let's turn it up for the city. But you know, a lot of her signatures were invalidated, and I just think it's ridiculous that as a body that is supposed to be a guardian of democracy, that this is what you have translated that to, keeping people off of the ballot.
Right. So, like, how do you feel about that logjam of it having so many Democrats there? I mean, like, you wish, like, it'd be, like, split a certain way?
Well, it certainly is, you know. I mean, because just because you have the D next to your name does not mean you embody the ideals of this party. And I think I have always considered myself a Democrat. I certainly have worked for Democratic Socialists. Martin Luther King was a Democratic Socialist. Bayard Rustin, you know, Ella Baker, A. Philip Randolph. The list goes on. We have had some black titans who believe in democratic socialism, which is just, you know, bringing socialist policies through elections, through the democratic process.
We should change the name socialist, because like, don't they always equate that to like Hitler, things of that nature?
I don't know why. You know, that would be ridiculous.
It's like a new name, like maybe something else, like Republican East or something. Like.
I mean, what it is, it's stuff like Social Security, Medicare, the minimum wage, like basic stuff that we depend on. Our socialist policies, we collect taxes from everybody, we dole it out to those who need it, or based on need. That's it. Yeah, right. You know, but they'll label that too. You know, so what we need is education and engagement, because then no matter what you call it, people understand what they're doing. So, but I've always been a Democrat, and it's because I believe in the real formative ideals of the Democratic Party. I don't believe in what it has become since the 90s that says we do the same thing as the Republican Party, except we believe in abortion and gay people.
Right.
You know, the giving money to developers hand over fist, the growth of, you know, just this super development in communities that leaves out minorities and low income people and immigrants. They're doing the same thing. You know, we're building up downtown like they built up Beaver Creek.
Right.
And so that's not the original ideals of the party, though. I'm thinking like FDR, you know, let's help the people.
Right.
That's where I am. And so there are some people on the commission who are Democrats who do not behave in that way. I don't know what they tell you they believe, but, you know, it doesn't reflect in the votes, as we just saw, you know, the other day.
Right.
So we are looking at a situation where you really have to get down to what the decisions are that are being made. Now, I don't have a voting record, unfortunately, for people to look at, but you can look at, you know, my Facebook going back all the way to Barack Obama to see what I'm talking about, see what I believe. You can look at my children who are 5 and 3 about to enter DPS and know what I'm talking about. You can look at my next door neighbor, the abandoned house with overgrown trees, where the city cuts the grass, and know what I'm talking about and where I'm coming from. That's my voting record so far. But when I'm on the commission, I will certainly stand by fixing my neighborhood, educating my kids, you know what I'm saying? And like those ideals. We have people on our commission who are removed from that. You know, one of our first forums, Commissioner Shaw talked about touring blighted neighborhoods. I don't have to tour. I have to open my bathroom window and look at the house next door. That could have somebody squatting in it tomorrow. That could be burnt down the next day. You know, I want to tour and talk to people, not look at the conditions I look at every day. You know, that's not where I am. That's not the Daytonian I am. My experience is replicated across this community far more than Commissioner Shaw's, you know. You know, and so that's just where we are in terms of representation. It's not our values. They look like us. They're gonna tell you what you want to hear, but look at what they're doing. Look who they have to listen to. Our form of government has a city manager. She runs the day-to-day of this city. They vote. They are a deliberative body. The decisions are made in the city manager's office. That's who they are listening to.
How do you become a city manager?
It's an appointed position. I mean, you come with some business credentials and blah, 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 blah. Our next city manager will be from this community, and they will care about this community.
That's why I need to be going for it. I don't know what I want to go for.
Yeah.
But, so like, how do you feel about, you know, like a city manager possibly not being from the area, or, you know what I'm saying, like being the opposite of what you actually want?
I mean, it's dangerous. You know, I mean, the decision made yesterday is dangerous. You know, the city no longer has control over minority business assistants. Or at least one key program that the city has employed.
They're giving them control
for almost a half a century. They have just relinquished that. And we know why. They want to make room for businesses that are not minority based, that are not women based. I mean, you know, maybe women based, but, you know, in a very different direction.
Right.
That's who they're making room for. You know, there's no reason to get rid of this resource unless you are making room for something else.
For sure.
What is it? You know, there's no new minority business assistance program popping up. They didn't even give a presentation on. They tell you, oh, well, they're going to be able to leverage it into additional dollars. Well, where's the pie chart? Who's here talking about that? Where's the representative from the chamber that can give us that information? Are we taking your word for it now?
We'll be here after Friday at 3:30. So an hour and 8 minutes ago was the deadline, and what do you think was the headway that happened? And will we hear about it?
You said what?
I remember being at the meeting.
Oh, right.
They said at 3:30 on Friday. Today is now 4:38 on Friday. What do you think will be the headway, or will be the press release, or will there even be one about the future of the NBAC?
So, I mean, it was a write up in the paper. The news was certainly there. So, but you know, they leaned on what the commission said. I mean, because they have to report what the commission says, right? Now, whether you get into the veracity of those claims or not is up to the reporter. But the press release is going to say the Minority Business Assistance Center is moving to the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce has promised to, you know, blah, 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 blah. They're going to say, they have to repeat what the commission said.
So, to be devil's advocate, which I hate to be, because Lord knows we're sitting the same aisle this day, right? Mm-hmm. What if they do a phenomenal job at that?
God bless them. Mm-hmm. God bless them. And I hope they do, because they have the program now. So, like, I my prayer.
Would you apologize if they do an amazing job?
Why wouldn't I apologize? Well, I don't think I've done anything wrong, but I would say that I was wrong. You know, I don't think anybody is owed an apology, but I would say I was wrong. I was wrong about my assumption. But, you know, this is America. Mm-hmm. When you assume, or let me not even say assume, when you look at history, where has the Chamber of Commerce been for black businesses? So I'm sorry if I'm basing my opinion on what has happened before, but, you know, surprise me.
Okay, so let's talk about grassroots organizations, right? One that I was a part of and I loved it to death was Angelina Jackson, right? What is your affiliation with Angelina? She's
a judge, and so she has to remain a judge. Mm-hmm. But she has given me advice on how to care for a family in this space. is very time intensive. It is very people intensive, which can become a drain. Like, I am a people person, and we have people over our house all the time, but there are days when we're like, okay, no people tonight, but you can't say that in politics. You can't have a day of no people. That doesn't exist. So,
All right.
yeah. I mean, I've got the tips here now. But no, you have to be out there. You have to be visible. You have to be making connections, important connections. So it becomes a balance a balancing act. And so she has given me definitely some valuable advice in terms of, caring for self, making sure you care for your kids, and making sure you care for your partner. So is she like openly supportive? She can't be, but she has certainly supported me in some ways. Yeah.
Here we go. So what was it like when you seen her get elected?
I mean, I voted for her, so I was excited. I was thrilled. It was a campaign that had energy. She was talking about transformational change in the judiciary. She represents transformational change in the judiciary. I mean, just her age, her racial background, we have a lot of women judges in Montgomery County specifically. So definitely not the first woman, but, just adding to that. And, I was proud. That wasn't a campaign that I got super involved with. I did more for Shanice and Daryl. Let me not be Commissioner Turner Sauce and Commissioner Fairchild.
Salute to both of them.
Yeah, I mean,
they have my utmost respect.
Commissioner Turner Sauce is another who has, been supportive in advice and stuff like that. I don't expect her to be publicly supportive at this point. There are too many people in the race. Right. But she has checked in, she has given advice. I have certainly been praying for her. When you watch what she goes through, what bothers me the most about the city commission, and yes, they are making horrible decisions, but as somebody who wants to raise children who value and respect women, I am disappointed by what comes off as sexism to me on that commission. Constantly silencing her, raising your voice at her, deferring to the cops or another commissioner over her. It is perceived to me as sexism, and that trickles down into our community. We watch these commission meetings. We notice these relationships, this dynamic, and it's disappointing. We need a commission of 5 adults who know how to disagree without being disagreeable. And Matt Joseph said that the other day, and shout out to Ryan McKinley. He said he got it from her. But I've heard that a lot. You need to disagree without being disagreeable. And I try to do that. Now, what happened the other day, my statement, I was a little peeved because once again, I had something completely different written. But I had to respond to what happened in that room that day, in terms of the blatant disrespect of the people, and of the process. They literally had to go talk to the law department to see if they were even within the law. Just way beyond the pale on just basic decency for a representative government. So, I had to be a little more pointed than I intended to be. Some people thought it was disrespectful, and Chris Shaw's business is a monument in this community. But we have to talk about today, not 113 years ago, because, 113 years ago, Shaw Cleaners did not have an ATM in it, that is charging $5 a transaction.
Ouch.
And it's right next to Gina's. That's where I go. That $5 needs to be downtown. Right. That's the ATM that needs to be in Oregon, not at Germantown. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sorry if it comes off as disrespectful, but we're exploiting our community, and we're electing somebody who does that.
Right.
Make the ATM free. Why are you making money off the people in that corner?
Well, you already got
when you have a business right here, 113 years old.
I mean, I was still charged like a couple cents or something.
We're a capitalist country, but you are literally running to represent these people. Like you cannot.
Yeah, it'd be a nice thing to do. It'd be a nice thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, let's get back to the social compact. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's using this ATM? If the people have it, sure.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But the person taking out $10 probably has 20.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you charging what to take it out?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, be for real here.
Yeah. So I didn't get a chance to ask you yesterday. I got a chance to ask everybody that was on the panel yesterday. If you had a magic wand, right? If you had a magic wand and you could cure everything when it comes to Dayton, Ohio with this magic wand, but you're going to do one thing, what would that be particularly?
I would fix our school system.
There we go.
I think the education is just so essential to developing a worldview, developing a sense of self, learning how to interact with other people. And we are being cheated in Dayton. I mean, public education is being cheated across this country, but let's talk about our community. They're being cheated. Our kids are being cheated. And we need to think seriously about what we want our education system to be. And I mean intentional.
Yeah.
And to me, you know, I'm not an educator by trade, but I love kids and I love learning. We need to be connecting our children to things that excite them early, so they can stay engaged. And, you know, when the stuff gets hard and the stuff gets disinteresting, we have a school district right now of so many kids who are just disillusioned, just like we are with voting, with school. You know, don't even want to be there. And, you know, we have to fix that if we want to talk about, you know, creating any future for Dayton at all. Because if our future is not educated, then what we're doing now means nothing anyway.
Right.
So let them make whatever decisions they're going to make. This community won't be here.
Right. So what is next for the great Marcus Bedinger, man? What is next for you?
I think I feel good about this race. So I'm looking forward to a general election, you know, to God be the glory. I would like to build some more connections in this community, really get people out. You know, I have people who have been supportive, people who have walked neighborhoods, you know, they're talking to their friends, they cop the yard signs. There are people out there who really support this campaign, but I want to build it out in a way that people understand that it's for them, you know, and I've interacted with some people who don't really understand where I'm coming from. You know, they see the smiling face and they think that I'm just a nice guy, you know, but I have fought these fights in my own. I've been homeless. I've been unemployed. I don't have a job now, technically, you know. I was a retail manager when I started this effort, but it became so much that I'm just like, you know, I care. I'm gonna have to step back and see this thing through. Right. You know, so I mean, I'll be fine. I'll get a job, but you know, I'm okay. Everybody,
he's working.
God bless Barry. God bless Barry.
Right.
But I want to build out a campaign that people feel is tangible for them. You know, so like, if it means sharing my personal story more, then you know, let's do that. I'll talk about, you know, changing homeless shelters every 10 days. But like, I want people to understand that I have been there. That's why I care. You know, a lot of people don't know me. I have not been out trying to, you know, gather groups of young kids to, you know, be visible all the time. And God bless people for doing it. We need it out there. But, you know, I've been focused on my own young kids who don't sit down. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, just, you know, I care, I advocate, but you know, sometimes you just get tunnel vision on your own situation. So this is the first time in a long time where I'm really back out there, you know. And so, you know, I don't begrudge people for not knowing who I am or questioning my origin, but you know, my story is Dayton, you know, and I'm just gonna have to keep sharing it. So I want to build out and let people know that, you know, I'm not just the smiling face. I'm not just the campaign signs. Right. There's a testimony behind this smile. You know, that's why I have it.
For sure. So here on the Legendary People podcast, there's a thing called the butterfly effect. It was something you said in the course of the interview, or something I found in the course of my research that I found to be truly profound and amazing. Right? Just from what I saw from, you know, down at City Hall, you know what I'm saying? Like, I already done saw, like, you know what I'm saying, like the whole fanfare and things of that nature, but I don't really get caught up in that part of politics. But when I saw how passionate, like, you were, because at the moment that I'm sitting there, I'm fuming. I'm on fire, like to the point where everybody's around me like, yo, Peanut, like, what you gonna say? What you gonna say? And I really felt like my grandmother was sitting there right there next to me, man. And I had the opportunity to go after you and Joe, right? Because I was that fired up. But when I saw y'all go up there and y'all already did, and y'all expressed everything I wanted to say, it was like, cool. Let me go up there and say what I kind of wanted to say anyway, but also let him know, like, bruh, this is something I'm serious about. But to come in here today and actually interview you and get a chance to really get a feel for who you truly are, I know I was already gonna vote for you before, but now put me on the campaign trail with you, right? Because I'm saying, like, seriously, like, to hear your story is very similar to like a lot of people's stories, right? We talk about the youth here who, you know, like, they probably don't understand the importance of voting. I like to compare that to not crabs in a bucket, but crabs in a boiling hot water where they don't know how terrible it is until you step outside of it. So I got a chance to leave and venture off and see the world, and I got a chance to see the slums in the Bahamas. Then I'm not flexing, no type of stuff like that. But when you come back, you see slums here in America. It really puts a different fire into your back, because my grandmother been trying to get me to community work. But when I left and came back, I finally saw my grandmother did. Like, my grandmother tried something like, yo, it's messed up around here. I'm like, man, like, that's Tommy down the street, or that's, and you don't know, like, they crackheads, and what, like, it didn't matter to me during that point. But when you come back, you see it like a bomb hit your city. It really makes you want to change things, and I see that same fire in you. It's like, to see you go through not only just being a black male to come out and to be courageous in that, I feel like that's going to be something for another person who needs to be courageous. Another person, like, you are literally going to be the beacon for a lot of people that feel the same way as you, but not have a person to be that example. And I feel like the city should represent a diverse group of what the city represents. It shouldn't just be, okay,
5 business owners who give into businesses all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of things changed from that moment at my very first city hall meeting. And you were a large portion of why I feel different about politics. Because if I just would have just only had that sample size of that, I probably would have said F this. Like, because this is somebody who I respected up there. Somebody I done been to this and that there, to see them be opposed to what the people wanted. I mean, I understand you saying, okay, I know better than y'all, because, like, what if he is right? What if he said, I see further down the road, but to not to offer an explanation on why, to defer to a city manager, to not even let the people speak before you come to a decision, to try to put the thing behind the curtain, and we don't want to talk about that, and no, we need to go back to talk to these lawyers and make sure we're allowed to talk about that. It seems a little disingenuous, and when you lose the trust in the people, they're going to find it somewhere else, and I found trust in you. So I appreciate you for coming on the Legendary Podcast, but I got to ask you another question.
Sure.
What's another path you could have chosen wasn't this one?
I mean, I was on another path as early as January, you know what I'm saying? But no, I think I want to go back to school. So, like, no matter how this shakes out, I'm going to end up back in school finishing my degree. That's something that's important to me. So maybe just doing that and focusing on that. You know, I was just a manager at Party City, so I don't know that I would have been there. Yeah, I mean, we need them. But
I can make some money off that.
But yeah, I don't know that I would have been doing that forever. You know, I'm a chameleon kind of. You know, I like to grow and adapt. I don't know if that makes me a chameleon. I grow and adapt. Yeah, I like to grow and adapt.
Grow and adapt to settings. That's a chameleon.
Yeah, right there. You know, whatever. But yeah. So it's hard to say. You know, whatever catches me, I kind of get into that, and I tend to do well. So I could have been doing anything, but you know, praise God, here I am.
So here go, January 24th, 2020. You posted. Look, nervous? Are you nervous? You nervous? I got Tyler Perry's next movie idea. You ready for this?
Oh my God!
He said,
I don't know where this is going, people. I'm sorry.
Said, a black teenage mother drunkenly stumbles to the ground outside a homeless shelter she's been staying in. Coincidentally, she lands next to Medea. After a brief conversation, Medea learns the woman left the baby in the homeless shelter unattended while she partied at a nearby crack house. I'm in, right? If you ever want to start writing plays,
I think Tyler Perry has a process that is very close to this. Okay.
And I was saying that funny because my man Ahava has a book called Stolen, the book of Ahava Elyon. Make sure you guys pick it up. You get it on Amazon, everywhere else. He actually took this book to Tyler Perry Studios, and they gave him the no way, man, and he had to turn away. So Tyler Perry,
okay, I should have edited the book. You would have been fine.
So yeah, we got to connect for you, Alvin, for
Yeah.
sure, man. So thank you so much for coming to Legendary People Podcast. You have my vote, and hopefully everybody out there that's watching, please make sure you tell them how they can vote early and where.
Yeah, so early vote right now is at the administration building, right directly across from Sinclair, that on 3rd Street, where the concrete Sinclair letters, right across the street, that federal building. Bottom level, take your ID, your government issued photo ID. So that's your state ID, your driver's license, your CDL, Coast Guard ID, veteran ID, military ID, passport or passport card. Or you can give your social security number and they will provide you with an absentee ballot if you're registered to vote. So that is early vote. It's open until 7:30 tonight. It is open tomorrow, 8 to 4. It is open Sunday, 1 to 5. Primary day is Tuesday. That is when you will vote at your polling location. You can look that up. You can use the Montgomery County Board of Elections website to look it up. You'll vote at your polling place. I believe polls are open 7:30 to 7:30, but don't quote me on that. What you should do.
So I can vote today down there early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You can go. Period. Let's have 500 people join Peanut down at the Board of Elections today. Bring your photo ID.
I'm about to go live on my way down there.
Period. We lit. Okay.
For sure.
So yeah, that's early vote. Primary day, you still take your ID, of course, and then you're voting at your polling location. But the important part is make your plan, because what happens is you're like, oh, I'm gonna go. And then before you know it, it's gonna be Tuesday, 8:30, polls gonna be closed. And I lose. And where were you?
Right. Where was you? For sure, man. So, man, great campaign, man. Great thing going on,
Thank
man.
you.
I'm going to say it like I said before. You going to win, all right? All right, I've said this 3 times.
Your lips to God's ears.
I said it 3 times, right? This is the 3rd time I said it, and next time I said it, people won. So, please make sure you go out there and vote Marcus Bedinger right now.
It's the only thing on the ballot, too. So the process takes like 3 minutes. You are literally in and out of there. It don't even feel like you voted.
And they validate your parking, right? You can park for free.
Oh, yeah, you park for free, too.
Know that.
Yeah.
Look, I always vote, okay? I always vote, for sure, man. So thank you guys, man. Another Legendary People podcast. Legendary People, Legendary Stories. What's your gun sound like? Just playing. Man,